Welcome back. Happy Thursday, everybody. My name is Emma G. This is episode, I'm going to say four, five, something like that. I lose track. Doesn't matter because tonight I'm joined by the wonderful Nick Springer of Mahogany Bees. How are you, babe?
I'm really good. Fantastic. Yeah. Very excited to be here. Thank you so much for, this opportunity. I know I told you a little bit earlier, but I've been so excited about this all week. So I'm
Yay.
really looking forward to it.
I'm so excited that I even wore a necklace that's the same color as your background. That's how
Mhm.
excited I am. We're totally in sync right now. That's cool. So, for those who don't know you, I could riff off of your bio, but I feel like it's probably more authentic coming from you. Who is Nick Springer and who is Mahogany Bees?
So Mahogany Bees started out of a need, actually, or I guess more of a desire. I've played in, a bunch of bands. I'm currently in another band. That's going great, but I wanted to do something that was a little bit more ultra specific to my music taste. I have a wide range of music taste. So I wanted to do something that was a little bit different, and a little bit more specifically towards exactly what I want to do and what I want to make musically.
Right.
And also to sort of tell my story, because I've never delved into writing lyrics or singing or any of that for that matter. I'm primarily a bassist. Um, but I wanted to do a project that allowed me to pursue those avenues and really just allow me to do anything I wanted creatively.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
I love diversity of like when a band member or an instrumentalist or just a musician in general has a wide variety of influences. To me, that makes them a better musician. What kind of inspirations have you had as a bassist?
Well, I started off with just the classics, learning some Pink Floyd, learning some Led Zeppelin. And from there, it escalated to the more heavy metal stuff. And I played heavy metal bass for a long, long time. And that's still my, um, I guess, my main focus, you could say, instrumentally for that instrument.
Mm-hmm.
But I also was exposed very early to funk. And funk is one of my all-time favorite genres, especially when it comes to their bass lines.
Mm-hmm.
Funky bass, can't
Of
go wrong
course,
with it.
slap at the bass.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I have an eclectic group of friends as well who have shown me all sorts of different genres of music. So I honestly listen to a lot, especially right now. I'm really getting into shoegaze, black metal, um, stuff like that. Some
Right.
weird like Midwestern emo stuff. I love it. Love it, love it, love it.
That's cool. That's cool.
Mhm.
Which is interesting because you're as a bassist for other bands, you're now doing a looping project. This is a
Mhm.
whole solo thing, Mahogany
Correct.
Bees. And so how I guess my question is like, how do you create such magic with one person in a looping station?
It honestly, a lot of it comes down to the gear. That
Right.
was my biggest limiting factor because I had all of these ideas in my head. I
Mm-hmm.
was sitting there like, I really want to do this, that, and the other thing musically. How do I do that? So I just did a ton of research into various instruments, various pieces of hardware that would allow me to um, pursue that.
Mm.
And it's funny, it was actually Mahogany Bees started as an instrumental only project. It was originally going to be entirely just instrumental. And then I realized that that's not really what people want to hear. Um, People really like vocals. A lot of people are when they're listening to music, they're paying a lot of attention to the vocalist and the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
So in order, I guess, to appeal to a wider audience and to better express the emotions that were going into the project, I decided to take the plunge and pursue singing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and of course, my confidence is getting better with my vocals, but I do use a manual vocoder when I'm recording and performing live to allow me to sort of alter the tone of my voice as well as a whole variety of other cool vocal effects. But that's kind of, unfortunately, it works well with the genre, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it was all based on limitations. What do I want to do and how do I do it?
That's cool. That's real
Hmm.
cool. I yeah, it's amazing to me how much technology has influenced the output of musicians these days. That's
Oh
cool.
yeah.
So let's dig into your song Shadows.
Mhm.
You know, when you first hit me up about wanting to talk about this specific song, because you changed your mind after realizing, you know, this podcast is all about raw and real,
Yeah.
vulnerable, and you know, how not just being raw and real, but how the magic of songwriting has helped you overcome the demons of past. So, you know, as myself being a songwriter, it's the same thing. It's helped me, you know, stop me from committing suicide and recover from addictions
Yep.
and sexual assaults and things. But Shadows has, you know, quite a dark story behind it.
Hmm.
Can you tell me more about what inspired Shadows?
So going back to the general inspiration, for me, music in general is very therapeutic, exactly like you were saying. Music has been the main thing, one of the main things that has gotten me through the very, similar situations to what you described. And the objective with Shadows, and the way I think, one of my, I guess, opinions about therapy in general is very, if you attack the either the root cause or the pain or the emotions or anything that's involved with trauma or going through a dark period in your life, and sort of embracing that and tackling it head on, it makes the recovery process a little bit more effective, at least in my own personal experience. So Shadows was, um, meant to sort of directly talk about one of the darkest periods in my, addiction. And I'm a recovering alcoholic. I was a very severe alcoholic for a couple years, and Shadows is about a very specific night, um, where I woke up the next morning and I was like, oh my god, I need to get my life together. I need to make some changes. I really need to, blah blah blah. And it was a big part of that recovery process was sort of taking those demons head on, those emotional demons that I was dealing with, and sort of tackling them and addressing them. And Shadows is about that initial moment where it was the night before, and then I woke up the next morning and I'm like, oh my gosh. So
Hmm.
Shadows is kind of about that experience for me, which was a very big turning point in my road to recovery.
That's
So,
awesome. I want
mhm.
to, if I may be so bold as to dig a little deeper and pick on you a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, and I say this because, you know, I've lost three people to
Hmm.
alcohol, you know, in one way, shape, or form, one of whom actually passed away from alcohol poisoning. And I think one of the things that is particularly prevalent with the male community and the metal male community, um, is that we have built this society where, you know, men have to have their shit together and, you know, just sweat it out in the mosh pit and then she'll be right,
Right.
and then, like,
Right.
you know, everything's cool. um when, you know, the opportunity and the permission that we give our men to talk about and address these situations is almost, you know, doesn't exist.
Non-existent. Yeah.
So how how was the writing process for you as somebody who often, I'm imagining, and please tell me I'm wrong.
Right.
You know, and it's in an environment where you're told, you know, toughen up. Um, what gave you permission to allow yourself to get that raw and real with yourself?
Um, I guess it was the moment I realized I was in denial. Um, Especially with that whole machismo thing, I actually really understand that. And I played hockey for a very long time. I grew up in a military family. Now, me saying that, I do want to state that my parents are very awesome. They've always been really supportive, but that whole machismo thing was very prevalent in the early parts of my life. And it really wasn't until I started playing music that I allowed myself to become more emotionally vulnerable,
Hmm.
and emotionally available, and really start to look at, when I'm playing an instrument, I'm like, wow, this feels great. Why does this feel so good? Or if I'm playing a really, angry song, afterwards, it's like a weight has been lifted off my shoulder. And I'm like, why is that? Why is this happening? And it all ties back to that music is therapy sort of thing. But I think a lot of it really had to come down to me. I didn't have anyone saying, "Hey, Nick, you have to be more emotionally available." Um, it was myself. I realized that I really needed to take a look at me as a person as opposed to me as a man.
Right. Oh, I
Mhm.
love that. I love that. I should also stipulate this is seltzer water that I'm drinking out of a wine glass because I don't really drink at all. And so I realize that we're talking about alcoholism. I'm not
Oh,
on booze.
it doesn't bother me. No, it
No,
it
I know, I
doesn't
know.
bother me in the slightest.
It bothers me. Like
Got it.
this year
Got
has
it.
been very much like you can either drink your feelings or you can like get healthy. Yeah, you know. So again, this is why I don't do
Got it.
comedy.
Got it.
Okay. So what was your songwriting process when writing Shadows? You know, you wake up
So,
in the morning, you're feeling like crap. Here we are.
right.
What then?
Um, Shadows was actually one of the very first songs I wrote when I started this project. Um, and I didn't have a specific moment or a specific event in mind when I started writing it, but what I did is I sat down and I was like, um, actually, I started with the instrumentals. So the entire instrumental part of that song was written before I had done any of the lyrics, which is true for all of my songs. That's usually how I write, which I know is pretty backwards for most people. But I started with the instrumentals, and the instrumentals didn't have a particular negative energy to them,
Mhm.
but I did want to have a little bit more of a melancholy vibe. So it did have a little bit of a slower, slower beat, etc. But in terms of the lyrics, I sat down and I was like, okay, what is if I had to pinpoint one specific event that was the most traumatic and the most important to me recovering and becoming a better person, um, and then I locked down that event and then I started writing about that event in terms of the emotions I felt during the event, after the event, and then of course looking towards the future, looking towards mental recovery, etc. So it was all based around a very specific event, but it started off with a quest to sort of figure out what is the most scarring emotional event that I've been through. And I want to write about it and I want to talk about it because it really helps. It really helps to talk about it. It really helps to have a dialogue when it comes to trauma or, events that hurt emotionally or physically. It's really good to talk about those things and gets you out of your own head. That's another big problem I have is I get caught up in my own head a lot. So writing about these things, talking about these things is one of the best ways to provide context to these
Mm,
events.
mm, mm. Did you so I mean, did you while you were writing it, did you feel because it's scary. It's scary writing. It's
Oh,
you're vulnerable. I often tell people like, back when I was playing in a band, I'm like, I take my songs to my band guys. Like, I'm just gonna get naked real quick and just sing to you. And they're like,
right.
oh yeah, this is scary. How was that for you? Like,
Oh, I
not just
was
sharing it with the world, you
I
know?
was I was mortified. I was terrified. I was mortified, and especially another big emotional thing that I deal with that I really try to work on. And this project is a really big part of that. I deal with a lot of shame. Shame for the past, shame for, I shame myself for being an alcoholic, which is not right. That's not what you're supposed to do. So this was uh definitely that was one of the biggest emotional factors when I was writing it. I definitely, I had one night especially I was like crying and just really torn up, having to pretty, in a lot of detail live through this moment that I it was hard. It was a hard time in my life, but it it was really good afterwards going through all of that, putting myself through that emotional sort of turmoil writing the song. But afterwards, once it was out, I was like, "Oh, this is great. This feels authentic. It feels real." Um and it was so worth it. So worth it in the end.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
And I think you're on the nose. We feel I think especially as public figures, the minute we fall down, the amount of shame that we feel is just ridiculous. So I guess my next question would be, how do you counteract that? Like, do you have specific self-love rituals that you go through to sort of
No, nothing
What?
specific actually. Unless I guess if you wanted to categorize it this way, once a song is done and recorded and mixed and I'm sitting there in my, my home studio and I'm listening to it and I'm like, okay, this is where I want to be. This feels right emotionally, but
Yeah.
the by far the biggest sort of aspect of that for me is the live performance, because it's one thing to have someone listen to a song, and this project started off as the intention was it for it to be a live performance project. I wasn't even going to upload any of my songs to the internet. I was just going to play shows.
Right.
um and
And
I
then
forget
COVID.
the reason why I decided against it,
Right.
fortunately.
Yeah.
But when you're performing live, you have, at least for me, you have a much stronger personal connection with the audience, and you
Mm.
can that emotional uh translation to the audience is so powerful, and that's another one of the really big rewarding factors, I guess you could say. When I'm singing these songs about what I've been through and what I was going through emotionally, what I'm still going through it, and I'm singing it to the crowd, and they're there and they're listening and they're experiencing it with me, it makes me feel a little bit less lonely.
Mm.
And that's a very rewarding experience in itself, and that is one of the best emotional rewards I get from this project, certainly. Hmm.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful. So what's been the biggest breakthrough that you've achieved with writing the song? Like you've obviously overcome a lot. It, has it been just, I, from what I'm hearing from you, and I'm sure there's more to it, that, writing this song has helped you break the ties with your alcoholic past and helped you to heal yourself in some type of way. But has there been anything else that kind of has surprised you about writing the song or, um,
Oh,
has
absolutely, absolutely, yeah. Especially when you're writing lyrics for someone who's never written lyrics before, it allows me to put my emotions into words. The way I've always
Mm,
expressed my emotion was through my instrument. Now, obviously, an instrument is more of a feeling than a specific, like, hey guys, I'm really sad today, or hey guys, this morning was rough. So by doing the lyrics was probably the biggest breakthrough, because that allowed me to literally sit down and write out, think of and write out these individual lines of these emotions that I'm trying to portray, these feelings that I'm trying to portray. So it really allowed me to do it well that way. The lyrics were definitely the biggest breakthrough.
that's awesome.
Hmm.
Speaking of which, would you like to tell us the lyrics? Because I want to play the song for everybody, but
Sure, sure,
it's always nice hearing the monologue.
sure. So, it's the chorus is, I still see the shadows, I still see the things I did last night in my mind, but I will go on. I'll try to go on, but I still can't escape my demons.
Hmm.
Um, so that's really the gist of everything else is meant more to go along with that, but that's really the gist of the message for that song. It's doing something you regret, waking up the next morning and just having to face that head on. And you can either grow and change and improve yourself from that, or you can sort of just continue to let these demons control your life and not ever make an effort to do any self improvement.
For sure.
Um, but yeah, I still see the shadows. I still see the things I did last night in my mind. I'll try to go on, but I can't escape my demons. And that was exactly what I was going through at that point in time. And I absolutely still deal with that on a day-to-day basis. Um, Especially like I said, with the shame. And I'll do the whole like self sabotage thing quite a bit. So by writing that and by expressing that, it's sort of, and something I've been doing over the past couple of years is forcing myself to confront these negative aspects of my emotional and mental life,
Mm,
and sort of trying to improve and work on those over time.
for sure. For sure. W- With it sounds almost as if you're talking to the addiction. Is that correct? Or are you talking to yourself?
Yeah, the audience in that case, I guess, would be the addiction. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Some of the lines here, like I feel my heart go cold and I try to go on, but I'm already gone. Leave me, I'm trying. Believe me, I'm lying.
That's actually that line specifically is not referring to the addiction. It was referring to who at the time was my fiance. Um,
Oh, okay.
and the inspiration for that was the guilt I felt from having to, for her having to deal with my addiction and to live with and be engaged to someone who's going through this horrible, horrible addiction. And it's kind of like, you know what? I'm trying to get better. I don't know if I'm going to, so you should just leave me. And that was a thought that I had, and it was really, really sad to me, and it was really disheartening. It was me giving up.
Right.
I was definitely giving up at one point, and I'm so glad I didn't, but
Oh, you've frozen.
that was absolutely something I dealt with, and I thought about, oh, this person's better way. So it was that line specifically is addressing that.
Gotcha.
And
Gotcha.
then the other line is more, I would say, is talking more sort of like
You've frozen a little bit, my love.
and even trying to fight your connection here.
That's okay. Sorry. You were saying fighting.
Um Oh, there we go. Got
Okay.
you.
You're still making it. You're still frozen in some type of
Weird.
place, but that's okay. Oh no, now we're back. Awesome. Well, I think I got the gist of what you were saying. That's cool. I like it. Thank you. Okay, cool. So on that note, let's have a listen to Shadows. When I figure out how to share my screen, I need to do this. Okay, cool. Oh. Nope, you can't hear that. Let me stop that. I learned this the other day that apparently when you're sharing computer screens, you need to make sure that you can share computer sound. Otherwise, it gets very awkward very quickly.
Oh, interesting.
These are the perks of being a full-time solo musician. Learning about technology. This is Shadows with Mahogany Bees, everybody.
Shadows, I still see the things I did last night in my mind. So I'll go anywhere, and I know I can't escape my demons. So I try to let go, and I feel my heart go cold. It's so cold, and I try to go on, and I try to go on, and I try to go on, but I'm already gone. Leave me, I'm trying. Believe me, I'm lying. I'm lying. If you tell me to go, I won't tell you no. I won't tell you no. I won't feel so damn low. I still see the shadows. I still see the things I did last night in my mind. So I'll go anywhere, and I know I can't escape my demons.
crowd goes wild. That's
If
beautiful.
you're thinking that the UPS store is only about packing and shipping,
I sort of was.
here's something else you should know.
And the SoundCloud just keeps talking.
That's actually also part of the song.
Of course, that's totally what happens. If you're thinking about shipping and handling. No, that was gorgeous. So I'm curious because you know, growing up listening to a diverse range of music, I heard some like, I mean, and you and me both on the whole Pink Floyd front, but I hear a lot of Bon Iver inspired sort of.
Ooh. It's funny you mentioned that. I've heard of them, but I've never listened to them.
You should. He's amazing. I think it's a he. I'm not sure. I'm not even sure. Them. Yes, they are amazing. In fact, I think it was Jason Derulo ended up. No, it wasn't Jason Derulo. There's a Bon Iver song that is often sampled for you know, for a very famous song. I want to say it's what you say, but I'm probably wrong. But yeah.
Oh yeah. I know that one.
I think that's Bon Iver originally, but
Cool.
yeah, I don't know. There's just some really nice, and then there's a kind of like an offbeat sort of Caribbean feel going. And I'm thinking, but you listen to heavy metal music, like how does that even happen?
I do it piecemeal. So I start off with the drums. I try to come up with a drum part that feels kind of cool, and then I'll add guitar, and then I'll add bass, and then I'll go from there. But this song actually started off with no guitar whatsoever. It was just drums and bass.
Right.
And I loved it, but it was just still a little bit empty. So I added the little sort of reggae, I guess, style guitar.
Right.
But I'm I'm not the best guitarist in the world, so I try to, you know, write within my abilities. So that was an example of that, I guess.
No, I love
But
it.
yeah, there's no specific like genre or theme or anything, or I would say genre. There's no specific genre I start with when I'm like, okay, I'm gonna write a pop song today, or I'm gonna write, you know, a funky song today. I don't know. I just sort of feel it in the moment in terms, and I do each instrument piecemeal. And a lot of times on my songs, the instruments don't match up stylistically. But I kind of like that. It makes it a little bit more eclectic.
For sure.
Not as cookie cutter.
For sure. That's cool. I've got two more questions for you.
Sure.
First one is, what makes this your life-changing song?
It's the first song I've ever written that directly addresses the true emotions that I'm feeling. It's the first song that I've ever really allowed myself to open up emotionally, and connect the music that I'm doing with something that I'm feeling, you know, in my heart, in my soul. So it was the gate opener, I would say, for the rest of my music that I'm doing now and that I've done since. But it was the precursor to allowing myself to really dive deep into why I'm doing what I'm doing. Why am I writing these songs? Why am I singing about this, that, and the other thing? And it's all about, you know, dealing with trauma, recovering from it, and growing and becoming a healthier person overall. And that was the first song that did that for me.
For sure. And you seem incredibly healthy, and I'm really excited that you're, you know, I'm really excited that this is a journey that you've taken on, because I feel like it's one of the most healthy outlets that we can potentially, you know, possibly have, really, isn't it? You know, and this is one of the reasons why I've started coaching, teaching young people how to write songs, is because it's helped me save my life so many times, and so many other musicians around the world as well, who are just channeling their, like you said, trauma through music.
Correct.
One last thing is, I know you have a new single coming out soon. You've just finished mastering it, and I'm super pumped to hear it. The song called Bedroom. Can you tell me about that song?
So that song is actually a little bit in a different realm from a lot of the stuff I've written. In some cases it's very similar. So the idea with this song is talking about using another person and more specifically, a physical relationship with another person, almost as a crutch
Hmm.
or as an escape from uh, dealing with stuff. So basically, like it's two pronged. So it's using a person in physical intimacy as an escape, but also dealing with that afterwards, I guess. So in
Hmm.
the song, I believe one of the lyrics is, you know, you can stay here overnight, you can leave your makeup on, um, you won't be here in the morning, and that's okay because I understand if you don't want to take on my emotional baggage, and this is purely a physical fling. So it's got a little bit of that playful, like one of those songs where it's just like all about making love, and it's also got that emotional realness behind it as well. So it kind of addresses both. It's a little bit playful, but it still has the serious undertones.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
Those are my favorite types of songs, the ones that kind of play with the duality of life.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Hey, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me tonight. For everybody who's watching and will watch, obviously we can keep an eye out on you by looking at Mahogany Bees on Instagram and Facebook, also mahoganybees.com. Is there anything else that you would like to tell everybody before we make like a tree and leaf?
I wanted to say thank you, Emma, for the opportunity. This was really, really cool. It's always good to talk about this sort of thing, and I'm really excited for your followers and your fans to listen to my music, and hopefully you guys like what you hear.
Totally. I'm sure we will because you're a boss. So thank you so much, man. I really appreciate you taking the time. And to everybody else, keep an eye out. We are doing all kinds of things. Obviously, I'm here on Mondays and Thursdays from 6 to 6:30, approximately, talking to songwriters from around the world about the songs that changed their life in the lead up to my upcoming book, The Songs That Changed My Life. So keep an eye out. Be good, be kind, spread love like it's going out of fashion. And please don't forget to brush your teeth on a daily basis. It's very important.